There are wounds that no one can see, wounds that hide not on the surface of the skin, but deep in the heart's memory. They live in the way we love, the way we touch, the way we fear being touched. They whisper through the silence after affection and echo in the moments when someone looks at us too closely. You might think your struggle with intimacy is a flaw, that something is wrong with you because you can't love easily, or because love feels confusing, heavy, or unsafe. But the truth is far deeper. What you call resistance, your soul calls protection. What feels like avoidance is often self-preservation. When the mind says, I want love, but the body whispers, I don't feel safe. That is not contradiction. That is trauma speaking through time. Love is not always beautiful in its beginnings. Sometimes it's the mirror that shows us everything we've tried to forget. The shame, the powerlessness, the fear of being seen, the trembling of a child who learned that closeness can hurt. And yet, even beneath the fear, there is still the longing, because deep down, we were born to connect. The human spirit does not stop craving love. It only learns to guard it. So this is not a story of brokenness. It is the story of remembering, of reclaiming the ability to love without fear, without shame, beginning not with someone else, but within yourself. The hidden fear behind connection. To struggle with intimacy is not weakness. It is evidence that your body still remembers the past. Long after your mind forgets the details, your nervous system carries the rhythm of every fear, every unsafe touch, every betrayal that once taught you to hide. We think love is supposed to feel safe. But for those who have been hurt, love feels like a gamble with pain. Each time someone gets close, a part of you wonders, will it happen again? That quiet question, that tiny moment of hesitation, that is the body's way of saying, last time it wasn't safe. And so we create patterns. We reach for people who feel familiar, even if familiar means painful. We choose those who remind us of the past, the ones who love halfway, who listen halfway, who keep us guessing, because some hidden part of us is trying to rewrite the old story, to finally win the love that once rejected us, to prove to the wound that we are now worthy. But that's not healing, that's repetition. The unconscious replaying itself until awareness breaks the cycle. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. To heal intimacy, you must first make peace with the parts of you that fear it. That means sitting with your discomfort instead of numbing it. It means acknowledging that love triggers your defenses, not because you're broken, but because your body is wise. It learned to protect you when no one else did. Love does not disappear when you hide from it. It waits. It lingers like sunlight on the other side of a locked door. And the moment you dare to open that door, even slightly, you begin to remember what it means to be safe again. So when you find yourself pulling away from those who care, or pushing away those who try to love you, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself not, what is wrong with me? But what is my fear trying to protect me from? Because beneath every act of avoidance is a story of survival. And beneath every story of survival is the same silent truth. You never stopped wanting to love. You only stopped believing it was safe to do so. Trauma does not only live in memory. It lingers quietly in the way we think, the way we breathe, the way we flinch when someone gets too close to our heart. It hides behind politeness, in the urge to withdraw, in the sudden feeling that you are too much or not enough for someone to truly stay. Most people think trauma ends when the painful moment is over, but trauma has no clock. It continues through the patterns it creates, shaping how we trust, how we express, and how we let others see our truth. You may find yourself craving connection, but fearing it at the same time. You may long for closeness, yet build walls the moment it appears. This is not confusion. This is your nervous system remembering what danger once felt like. It is the mind saying, I want to be known, and the heart whispering, but I don't feel safe yet. Trauma often disguises itself as control, the urge to manage, to predict, to make sure nothing ever hurts you again. You might overthink every message, every silence, every look, not because you are weak, but because uncertainty once meant pain. And so, the psyche creates a rule. If I can control everything, I will never be hurt again. But control is a fragile armor. It keeps you safe from disappointment, but it also keeps you distant from peace. Because real connection, emotional or spiritual, cannot live inside the walls of control. It asks for surrender. It asks for trust. It asks for you to breathe again without fear of the unknown. Carl Jung once wrote that the things we repress the most eventually shape our destiny. And for many, what's repressed is not anger or sadness, but the need to be understood. You learned to silence it long ago because it wasn't safe to express. But healing begins the moment you let that silence speak, the moment you say, I want to be seen for who I am, even if your voice trembles. Your trauma was never your weakness. It was your body's way of protecting your innocence. But what once kept you safe can now keep you small. And if you want to grow, you must teach your heart that the world is not the same place it once was. Safety is not found in control. It's found in awareness. It's found in the stillness between breaths when you remind yourself, I'm not there anymore. I'm here now. And it's safe to open again because every scar you carry is not a mark of damage. It's the proof that you've survived. And beneath that survival lies something even greater, the quiet courage to love again, to trust again, to begin again. When closeness feels dangerous, there's a moment, quiet and almost invisible, when someone looks at you with genuine warmth, and instead of softening, you flinch. You pull back, change the subject, or make a joke. You tell yourself it's nothing, but your body knows. It remembers what closeness once cost you. Most people think fear of intimacy is about other people, about not finding the right one, or not being ready. But Carl Jung would tell you, it's not about them. It's about the forgotten parts of you that never learned what safety feels like. In the depths of your unconscious lives, a child, the one who once reached for love and met silence, or disappointment, or confusion. That child built walls, not out of anger, but out of instinct. Walls were protection. Distance was safety, control was survival. And now, years later, you still live behind those invisible walls, smiling, working, maybe even loving, but never fully letting yourself be seen. The more someone tries to get close, the more the unconscious resists. It whispers, if I let them see me, they'll leave. If I open up, I'll lose control, so you retreat, emotionally, mentally, even energetically. You replay the old story of protection, unaware that it's no longer true. The wound has become the storyteller. Jung called this the complex, a cluster of memories, emotions, and beliefs that operate outside awareness but shape how you feel and act. You may crave connection, yet sabotage it. You may want love, yet feel unsafe when it arrives. The conflict is not a flaw, it's a message from your unconscious, asking you to turn inward and listen. The mirror of relationships are mirrors. They reflect not only what we love about ourselves, but what we've denied. When someone truly sees you, they don't just meet your confidence. They also awaken your hidden fears, your shame, your unhealed memories. This is why connection feels so intense, because it activates the shadow, the part of us we hide to stay safe. When we are loved, the shadow trembles. It doesn't know how to receive. But here lies the paradox. Only by facing that trembling, that ancient fear of being known, can you experience the depth of connection your soul has always longed for. Healing begins with seeing. Healing doesn't mean tearing down all your walls at once. It means learning why you built them. It means noticing when your fear speaks louder than your truth and choosing to respond with compassion rather than judgment. You are not difficult. You are not broken. You are someone whose nervous system learned protection before it learned safety. Real intimacy begins when you no longer see your fear as a problem to fix, but as a story to understand. A story written by pain, now waiting to be rewritten by awareness. Because when you see your patterns clearly, they begin to lose their power. And in that awareness, your heart, once guarded, begins to open again. Learning to feel safe in connection. Safety is not built in a moment. It is built in a rhythm. 1,000 quiet decisions to stay open when it would be easier to hide. The human heart learns safety the way a tree learns sunlight, slowly, through consistent warmth. When you've spent years guarding yourself, connection can feel foreign. You may long for it deeply, yet pull back when it arrives. Not because you don't care, but because a part of you still believes it isn't safe to be seen. But safety doesn't come from finding the perfect person. It comes from finding stability inside yourself, from knowing, even if I'm misunderstood, I will not abandon myself. Jung often spoke of the inner world as a living reality, a landscape that mirrors our outer life. If your inner world is filled with self-blame and tension, every relationship will feel uncertain. But if you cultivate calmness within through awareness, patience, and kindness toward your own emotions, you begin to create a sanctuary. It is this inner sanctuary that allows intimacy to flourish. Because you cannot feel safe with another if you are still at war with yourself. Safety begins when you sit with your own discomfort and whisper, I'm here. I see you. You're allowed to feel this. Trust is not a grand declaration. It is a quiet practice. It begins with small moments, letting someone see your true thoughts, allowing them to witness your silence without rushing to fill it, learning that not every pause is rejection. To trust is to risk, yes, but it's also to remember that not every risk leads to pain. The past once taught you that openness equals loss. Now, through awareness, you teach yourself something new, that openness can also lead to peace. Jung believed that every fear, when faced consciously, transforms into wisdom. And in relationships, that wisdom becomes compassion for yourself and for others walking their own invisible paths. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about relearning how to live beyond it. The moment you begin to see your patterns, not as failures, but as protective instincts that no longer serve you, you reclaim your power. You realize that connection doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. It asks you to show up, trembling, uncertain, but willing. Because the courage to connect is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to love despite it. When the heart opens again, and one day it happens, quietly, naturally. You notice you no longer flinch when someone looks at you with kindness. You can listen without feeling the need to protect or perform. Your walls, once thick as stone, begin to breathe. This is not weakness. This is evolution. The evolution of a soul learning that safety was never the absence of pain. It was the presence of understanding. In that moment, you realize something profound. You are no longer waiting for someone else to make you feel safe. You are the safety. You are the calm. You are the home you were always searching for. The psychology of true connection. True connection is not the merging of two incomplete people. It is the meeting of two beings who have faced their own depths. When Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole, he wasn't describing perfection. He was describing honesty. The kind of honesty that allows you to say, "This is who I am, with my fears, my past, my light, and my longing." In that space of truth, masks begin to fall. You no longer need to be impressive to be loved or silent to be accepted. You no longer perform for belonging. You belong because you are real. And when two people meet from that place of wholeness, they do not complete each other. They reflect each other. They become mirrors that show both beauty and shadow, and yet choose understanding over judgment. This is not dependency. This is what Jung would call conscious relationship, a union born not from need, but from awareness. Such connection doesn't fear distance or silence. It breathes freely, because both souls have learned that love grows strongest where freedom and safety coexist. Connection, when real, is often quiet. It doesn't demand proof or performance. It exists in simple gestures, a look that says, "I understand," a pause that allows the other to simply be. The more you understand yourself, the less you need others to fill your emptiness. And paradoxically, that's when connection deepens. Because love can finally move freely, without fear of losing itself. You no longer cling, you no longer chase, you simply share. And that sharing is enough. In Jung's view, this is how the soul learns to relate consciously, not through control or dependency, but through mutual recognition. Two individuals, awake to their own depths, creating a space where truth can live without disguise, becoming the safe place. Healing begins when you stop searching for the one who will never hurt you and start becoming the one who no longer abandons yourself. Every person who has ever withdrawn from closeness, every heart that has ever feared love, was only protecting the part of them that was once unseen. But awareness changes everything. When you turn toward your own pain with compassion, it stops needing to defend itself. You become gentle, not because the world is safe, but because you are safe within it. And in that gentleness, you begin to radiate something new, a quiet strength, an energy that others can feel. People sense it when they're near you. It's the energy of someone who no longer demands safety from others because they have built it inside themselves. This is the birth of emotional freedom. This is what Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." So if you struggle with closeness, if love feels distant or connection feels heavy, remember, there is nothing wrong with you. You are simply meeting the parts of yourself that once learned fear instead of trust. You do not need to rush your healing. You only need to stay present. Every time you choose understanding over withdrawal, you are healing. Every time you speak truth instead of silence, you are healing. Every time you stay, just a little longer, in the presence of warmth, you are teaching your nervous system that safety exists here, now. And one day, quietly, you will realize that you no longer fear being known. You will feel it, the peace that comes from within. A peace that doesn't depend on anyone, but allows everyone to enter freely. That is intimacy, not as the world defines it, but as Jung understood it. The meeting of souls who have faced their shadows and returned to light together. You are never too much. You are simply protecting something precious. But now, you have the wisdom to protect it differently, not through walls, but through awareness. The past shaped you, but it does not define your capacity to love. You can begin again, quietly, gently, courageously, because the heart that once hid from connection is the same heart that now knows how sacred it truly is.